Hello and welcome back to another episode on the channel by me, the Wise James. I was in bed and woke up because I'd had an early night, and I turned on YouTube to see a lot of videos, a lot of them, asking, is Nigel Farage a traitor? And stuff like this. Now, I've been calling Nigel Farage a traitor for a while, a long time now actually. Because he got the Americans to financially back him and support him and use their media to get him where he is now after he couldn't get his own way at the EU. So dragged the UK out of the EU by helping the Tories and then blamed the Tories for everything. And then over the last 10 years, 5 years, I should say, Nigel has entirely spoke about the problem he helped create with the Tory party by helping support a bad deal and creating the situation where the Tories could do one. And he's literally used the problem he's created and helped create to terrify the British people into voting for him. It's always trying to scare people. It's always trying to terrify people. It's always trying to make them think we need him. Rather than being someone we need because he's so good, he creates these scenarios or narratives where he is the required solution. Whereas me, personally, I just offer you all up my solution, and if you don't take it, I just laugh at you, because every time you then whinge about the problem, I get to say, well, I already solved it. You should have just implemented my solution, and it's not my fault. You should all have listened. So what I want to do was watch this congressman in the USA speak to Donald Trump. It's not Donald Trump. Nigel Farage today, because I thought the Americans were going to give him an easy ride. But I saw the first few seconds of this video, and they certainly were not giving him an easy ride. So I'll just get into this. 1 second there. Bring up fears. There we go. So that's the video I'm going to watch by Politics Joe.
Sir, your shape is incredible. How many times per week you visit the gym?
0. I'm just doing Tai Chi every day.
Just 1 second here. There we go. Sorry, I woke up in the middle of the night to do this because it's 12 o'clock at night here in the UK. I really didn't expect to open up YouTube and see a load of people asking if Nigel Farage is a traitor. Because I've been saying this for months and nobody said a damn thing. How is it that we've allowed someone who is literally a foreign-backed, financially backed by a foreign state, backed by a foreign media, backed by foreign politicians, and a foreign country, how is going to them to help punish this country, like he has done today, trying to impose sanctions on our country for freedom of speech, although he's perfectly used his freedom of speech to scare the British people into voting for him and to terrorise them into thinking there's only he can save them from this terrible problem, ironically, he created with the Tories. So I'm a bit surprised that everyone's finally come around, to be honest. Usually, you just don't come around. You just don't understand. You don't need to be someone in the Tower of London to be a traitor. To be a traitor to Britain, all you need to do is put a foreign country's power over ours. So, what Nigel Farage, I believe, is the American puppet. Well, he's made himself an American puppet. He wasn't when he was at the EU, but he was at the EU and he was like, I'm going to make Britain leave the EU. And the whole EU building laughed at him, like, yeah, of course you are, mate, of course you are, mate. And he goes, oh, you'll see, you watch, You'll all be laughing, blah, 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 that sort of thing. And so he went off to America to get the American support to try and do what he was trying to do, because they were the only people on the planet who don't like the EU as much as him, which is where he met the American nationalists who financially backed him, who offered him media revenues and media options to help get him in power, under the guise that when he is in power, he's under the control of the American government and the American people. He's the American puppet. So Britain would no longer be Britain. It would, full control of our country would have been handed to a foreign state. And let's be honest, that's what the Americans do. They cause civil wars and civil disputes between populations and then install their own guy. Cuba, Syria. I mean, we could name 20 more situations where they've done this. Is it really beyond the question of possibility that America would try and install their own person in the UK as Prime Minister and make us all think it was our own guy? Is it really beyond the realms of possibility that the CIA, the same people who were testing LSD on their own soldiers and special forces people and didn't tell them, is it not possible that they're trying to install their own leader because they think our freedom of speech is an issue when it's not? I can sit here, right, and call you all cunts. I can literally sit here and call 8 billion people a bunch of cunts. I mean, I'd be wrong because some of them are lovely people, but I could do it. That's freedom of speech, baby. But what you don't have the freedom to do is incite violence, because that's rebellion. That's violent revolt. If you were on a boat, it would be mutiny. And do you know what we do to mutiny on a boat? We throw you into the sea. Like, do you know what I mean? Because you'll crash the boat and you'll kill us all. And a country is like a boat. It either floats or it sinks. So the point is, I think Nigel Farage is a traitor. I didn't think he was a traitor at the EU. I didn't think he was a traitor for trying to get Brexit done. But I think by getting a foreign state to back him financially and with media, and then using the problems essentially you helped cause to terrorise the British people into voting for you, is not the act of a decent man. It is the act of a traitor. Like, to hand control of your country to another country in any form, I would regard as treacherous. Not Tower of London traitor, but, you know, took a dive in a match traitor sort of thing. So let's watch this video and see what the USA people are saying about him.
Just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with. No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. We actually have great freedom of speech in the UK. It's such this. It's a lie. It's a lie. America doesn't like that we have better freedom of speech, because in America you are allowed to incite violence. You essentially are, because you got freedom of speech in America is absolute, whereas in the UK, freedom of speech comes with what's the words? Comes with restrictions. And freedom of speech should come with restrictions. You don't have the right to walk up to people and verbally, emotionally and mentally abuse them on the street for no reason. Like, you don't have that right, because then you've disturbed them, you've disturbed the peace, their peace. You know what I mean? You don't have that right. So you also don't have the right to incite violence. You don't have the right to encourage another person to act violent just because you are so weak and cowardly that you didn't do it yourself. You got other people to do it for you. Like, the incitement of violence law is very important. Otherwise, I could literally go and get 10 men to go and start beating people up for me and collecting money, right? And claim I never committed a crime. But if I order these men to do this, I've incited the violence, haven't I? Does that make sense? You can't make other humans commit violent acts. That is not freedom of speech. That is a consequence if you use your freedom of speech incorrectly. I can sit here on the internet every single day and say the king of my country was best friends. Well, let's say best friends. The king of my country knew Jimmy Savile and hung around with him a few times when he wasn't king, and obviously when Savile was alive. And his brother was friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein called Donald Trump his best friend. I can sit on the internet and say these things because they're well-established facts. I can say that I think Andrew did something dodgy with a minor because he paid someone not to deal with that in court. I can say that Epstein considered Donald Trump his best friend because Jeffrey Epstein said that. But what I couldn't do is infer that these men, as a result of being associated with Jeffrey Epstein, committed the same similar crimes as Jeffrey Epstein just because they knew him. I can only suggest that they have a high possibility of it rather than they have. So I can say that. I can literally say that the king of my country, the president of the United States, and who was the other person? Oh, and the king's brother, all were best friends with child sex offenders. One of them who used to sleep with dead bodies. I can say this, right? That's freedom of speech. But what I cannot do is encourage another human to commit a violent act because of that. So if you've got a problem with illegal migration, you can talk about it. You can say literally whatever the fuck you want about illegal migration, as long as you're not racist, as long as you're not homophobic. Although, to be fair, you'd get charged for a hate crime if you're a racist, okay? If you did that. So it's not just violence. Like, all laws have to be upheld. So I don't think anyone who uses their freedom of speech to incite violence should be allowed to use it anyway. You've proven you are misusing freedom of speech. You're the sort of person who, is harmful with your freedom of speech. You're not helpful.
In saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin.
See, I'll go to the start because it was a few seconds in. There we go.
Keir Starmer has not shut down GB News, where Mr. Farage has his own show, just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with. No one has stopped him.
Yep, no one stopped Nigel Farage whinging about the protesters that he didn't like. But of course, he doesn't whinge about the protesters he does like.
Him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also and repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator. This hearing's just a drive-by hit against a strong Democratic ally to benefit a Donald Trump sycophant and wannabe. Thank you kindly, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to our witnesses. I imagine
Donald Trump sycophant and wannabe. That's funny, that is. That's funny.
That in a hearing about threats to freedom of speech abroad, we might hear from a Russian dissident about Putin's massive violations of political freedom, or the death of Alexei Navalny in prison, or perhaps a Chinese pro-democracy activist about President Xi's attacks on free speech in Hong Kong, Tibet, Xinjiang, or the persecution trial of Jimmy Lai, or maybe a journalist about the Saudi Crown Prince's assassination of Jamal Khashoggi.
We don't know that that was a Saudi prince. The Saudi Arabia did lead their own investigation, and as far as we're aware, it was an inside rogue group operating in the Saudi government that was doing things they shouldn't have done, and they have dealt with them personally, as far as I'm aware. But I do say that as a Newcastle United fan, and they own our club, and so I am almost now duty-bound to report that as their fair side of it. But I do believe the Saudi state killed Jamal Khashoggi because the members of the government they arrested for doing it were working for the government. They just did it against orders. So it was still the Saudi government. It was just unsanctioned. But, yeah. I put up a wanted poster, actually, with this prince his face on it on Twitter at the time when that happened, and a wanted for murder, and put the prince's face on it. And I'll never be able to go to Saudi Arabia because of that. If I ever went to Saudi Arabia, I would never be able to leave. I would be put in a hole in the ground, and that would be it. Like, because I put a meme on Twitter, you know, about one of their members of the royal family. Whereas I can call my king an absolute bellend, an absolute twat, because he sends Nonce's best friends fucking handwritten invitations delivered by my prime minister, but thinks I'm not worth his time. Yeah. I don't think he understands what and who I am, and that's why. And so he will need told. All right, Charlie boy.
Freedom from religious persecution and oppression in Saudi Arabia. But no, the dictators of the world have got nothing to fear from this hearing. The Republicans called it to attack our democratic allies in Europe. The star witness is not a human rights leader like Navalny, but a far-right, pro-Putin politician who leads the UK Reform Party, a party that has 4 members out of 650 members in the parliament. He calls England an authoritarian regime, while saying that Vladimir Putin is the world leader he admires the most.
Yeah. Hell, Mr. Raskin, you certainly are very good at painting this picture, that's for sure.
Well, this hearing mimics Vice President J.D. Vance, who went to the Munich Security Conference in February. In the first 2 minutes of his speech, whitewashed the world's leading autocratic regimes, proclaiming that the threat that worries him is not Russia. It's not China, he said, but rather it's our European allies. Amazing. Republicans are promoting far-right parties in Europe, like Alternative for Deutschland, Reform UK, and Rassemblement National Français, and ignoring massive repression in Russia, China, Pakistan, Saudi Arabia, and among all the autocrats of the world. Republicans are vilifying European liberal democracies simply for engaging in the kind of line-drawing exercises that we Americans engage in under our First Amendment with respect to the epidemic of child pornography, protecting children from other harmful content.
Yeah, like, people have kicked off over this online safety bill, but, like, literally, all it is that you have to log in to be able to access pornography, and everyone, like, went mental about it. Yous all went mental about it. Bearing in mind, we're trying to protect children from seeing adult genitals here, and from adult material they shouldn't have access to, right? And all you lot are like, oh, but I can't finger myself. I can't do this anymore. It takes you literally an extra 10 seconds to log in, you bellends. Shut up. If I was leader, I would do far stricter things to control things, because children can still use VPNs. So yeah, I don't understand how people have kicked off over this trying to help children from being harmed by harmful material thing. And they're all like, but what about me? What about me? What about me? Fucking hell.
Defamatory speech, online scams and false advertising, and speech inciting riots and imminent lawless action. All forms of speech that the First Amendment does not protect and whose tricky contours must still be drawn by law. We could have a meaningful hearing on this complicated subject, but this hearing is just a drive-by hit against a strong Democratic ally to...
Yeah. The thing is, what you've got to understand, right? Nigel Farage is a British MP. He's an English MP. And today was the first day of Prime Minister's Question Times, where he should have been at work, where he's paid to be by the British people, doing his job. And instead, he's in America, slagging us off, trying to get America to impose tariffs and sanctions on our country that pays his wages because he's not getting his own way. So because he's not getting his own way, he's trying to get other countries to punish us. And this is why I've been calling him a traitor for years. Because it was the same with the EU. Because he couldn't get his own way with the EU, he goes, well, I'm going to go and get me friends to sort you out then. So he went and got the Americans to sort the EU out and let him get his own way, right? And now the same thing's happening with the British government. He's not getting his own way, like banging on about immigration every day, day in, day out for 10 years. Hasn't worked for him yet. He's still not Prime Minister, and he doesn't think it's going to work in the next 3 years. So he's throwing his toys out the pram and trying to push harder. Like, he's a fucking traitor, I'm sorry. He's a child. He's a man-child.
To benefit Donald Trump's
I say that because it takes one to know one. I'm a man-child, okay?
sycophant and wannabe. But it's even worse than this. Not only are colleagues ignoring intensifying repression in the world's dictatorships, they're also trying to distract the world from the attack on freedom taking place right here in America. Every single
America! That's the first time he sounded anything but very, very professional. It's just because he left out the A, America. He just said America, or sounded like it. I'll repeat it just to check. I could be mistaken.
The world from the attack on freedom taking place right here in America.
No, he did. It's just he didn't enunciate. He didn't say America. He goes America, America.
Every single day. Americans aren't worried
I'm sorry, Mr. Raskin. I take the mick out of people's accents all the time.
about the EU or the Online Safety Act in the UK. We're not worried about white nationalists not having enough license to incite lynch mobs to set immigrants on fire in their bedrooms. Americans are worried that Donald Trump is working to rewrite and whitewash American history in our museums, our textbooks, and our national parks, to destroy PBS, NPR, and public broadcasting, to ban books in our libraries, and to censor any news stories critical of him by installing political henchmen in private broadcast rooms. Americans know that academic freedom is in danger when the administration cancels and withholds billions of dollars in scientific and medical research funding from American universities, even for urgent life-saving studies about breast cancer or heart attacks, as a way to force schools to impose government orthodoxy on curriculum, hiring, admissions, and any student and faculty speech that MAGA considers politically incorrect. Americans see Trump trying to harass, intimidate, control, and shut down the press, like ABC, CBS, NBC, NPR, and PBS. The Republican-controlled FCC.
Yeah, I mean, have you noticed that a lot of journalists these days, when they ask a question, one of these sorts of politicians doesn't like, they just insult them, or they'll try and make a joke that embarrasses or tries to belittle the journalist. So whenever a journalist asks Trump something he doesn't like, he'll do a little side thing to try and distract people. So he'll either mock their intelligence, mock their history of education or employment, or something that they've said or done in the past. Anything but answering the question he didn't like being asked. And the same goes for most politicians. They will avoid the question being asked by giving you something more controversial to distract you with. They think they're clever, and, you know, it outsmarts the average human, but not everyone.
Essentially blackmailed media companies Skydance and Paramount into agreeing to install a spy, a monitor, a minder, I think the Brits might say, to police CBS News programs to make sure that they are being sufficiently Trumpy in giving us the news in order to get approval of a merger from FCC. Meanwhile, Trump sued 60 Minutes and CBS personally for $20 billion for the frivolous cause of action that he thought an interview with Kamala Harris was edited too favorably, and then walked away with a cool $16 million in a shakedown settlement for his library, all part of a now familiar pattern. When Trump doesn't like the news, he sues the broadcaster and unleashes the FCC on them until they pay up.
Are we going to all talk about how Maxwell got pushed into, like, a lower security prison as soon as the Epstein list was getting pushed to get released? She got put into a safe place, and then made a public announcement that she never saw Donald Trump do anything bad or good. And then the Epstein list has never been released. They've just released the Epstein files. To be honest, I don't care about the Epstein files. I want the names of all the people who did business with Jeffrey Epstein and all the financial transactions so we can identify who committed what crimes and did what and put them in jail for it. Like, literally, I don't understand why you in America have allowed the CIA and the FBI not to investigate this properly. Because you're talking about hundreds of powerful senior businessmen and government officials who are guilty by association of knowing Jeffrey Epstein, and some of those individuals would have paid him for criminal services like prostitution of minors, human trafficking, and worse, okay? So we want to know who these people are, their names, what they did, and how much they paid, and put them in jail. Like, that's it. That is it. And we all know Donald Trump's name is on that list. And Donald Trump has managed to remove himself from that list, move the person who essentially was an accomplice to the person who paid to do the crimes to a safer place, and then they've vouched for him. Like, I'm not buying it. We all know Donald Trump's on the list. We all know Prince Andrew's on the list. Like, we all know most likely King Charles, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg are on the list as well. Come on. We all know this. But what we need to know is who paid for crimes. Like, just because they went to the island, I mean, I don't care. We can tell from Jeffrey Epstein's, like, transactions, financial transactions, and those people's bank accounts who paid for what. Everything's got a paper trail, baby. Everything.
And agree to a government spy stationed in their office. Free speech is so much in danger in the U.S. today that if the government tries to violate our rights, we might not even be able to find a lawyer to defend ourselves because Trump is systematically exacting retribution against law firms that represent anyone on the other side of a case against him. Look, our country loves free speech. We fight for free speech. We fought for free speech. And we know it's in danger when students who are lawfully in the United States are taken off the street and arrested without warrants by masked federal agents in unmarked cars for writing an article or attending a rally that Stephen Miller doesn't like. Free speech is in danger when visitors to our country have their social media accounts screened at the border for any criticism.
Imagine if they screened my account at the border. They'd be there for weeks, man. They don't have the manpower to assess my social media fucking posts. Are they having a laugh? I'm sorry. In order to assess my social media, you would need a team of about 10 people, and it would take them at least a year. Like, I'm serious. You guys have no idea how big my digital footprint is. People think I'm just on Facebook and YouTube. I'm everywhere, baby. I'm fucking everywhere. Absolutely everywhere.
Bird, The Handmaid's Tale, 1984, and The Kite Runner are banned from our schools and libraries across the country, and even families defending our freedom abroad have to fight for their kids' right to read freely in public schools run by the Department of Defense.
By the way, one of the reasons I would never go to America has nothing to do with Donald Trump and my social media and saying he's Jeffrey Epstein's best friend, because Jeffrey Epstein did say he was his best friend, and 9 months into Donald Trump's presidency, while he was in a federal jail, was found to have hung himself, which was found out to be physically impossible, and he somehow broke 3 vertebrae in his neck when hanging himself, which has never been done in the history of humanity. It is physically impossible for a human to do to themselves, and even the coroner said so, but somehow that's never mentioned by the American government. Also, they said there was no Jeffrey Epstein files, and have just released 30,000 pages of documents, the Jeffrey Epstein files. But they have redacted all the names, all the financial transactions and information that will lead to convictions against the people who committed the crimes. Donald Trump, Donald Trump. But yeah, I won't go to America because I'm the founder of a religion. And as a result of being the founder of a religion, I have a target on my back a bit more than your average person from a religious nutter. Like, you know how we are technically all in danger from religious extremists. well, technically, because of who I am, I'm slightly more in danger than your average person from psychotic religious people who might be susceptible to delusions that I'm like, the Prince of Darkness or a demon or an alien. Do you know what I mean? Like these nutters who they were already going to kill some innocent person anyway, but they found out this guy was the leader of a founder of a religion, so they targeted him instead. Like, we're all in danger from these people. It's just unfortunately I'm in slightly more danger than the rest of you.
Freedom's in danger when the administration tramples the civil service rights of hundreds of thousands of nonpartisan expert civil servants. These civil servants have been protected against political discrimination for more than a century to maintain the excellence and independence of our federal workforce, but they're now being fired simply for doing their job.
Fired.
Like prosecuting violent criminals and insurrectionists who try to overthrow our government and attack our police officers, or because they honestly gave honest economic information and labor statistics to the public. These honorable civil servants are being fired because they won't be the political hacks Trump demands that they be. When private comments made by federal employees are scrutinized for anti-Trump bias and they can lose their jobs because of it, then we've entered the realm not just of Vladimir Putin, but of Joseph Stalin. Now, Mr. Trump and Mr. Farage both claim they're protectors of free speech, but they only want to protect speech they agree with.
Correct.
In the UK, Mr. Farage is openly promoting the abolition of the Human Rights Act.
Yes, he is. He wants to leave the ECHR and tries to claim it's because of the migration problem. Ironically, the migration problem he caused by helping the Tories implement the bad deal, right, and starting the Brexit debate. Figure out that from what you will. But he has made his entire fortune from the last 10 years by never shutting up about the problem he created and avoiding responsibility for it. Like, so if he gets into power, he's not going to solve the problem he created. He's just going to do it more to make more money and blame everyone else even more. Like, I don't understand how the British people have been fooled so easily by a man who created a problem that he's the one to solve it, and no one's pointed out, like, hang on a minute, we only have this problem because of you cunt. Like, nobody's saying that, except for me, and when I do, I get shot down. But like, oh, well, he's never been in power, Well, yes, he was our member of parliament at the EU. He had more power at the EU than our king and prime minister combined. He had enough power and influence to get the entire country to demand a referendum from the EU. And David Cameron caved and gave it to us. So he clearly did have power. Like, even I, as a British taxpayer, even though I'm not an MP, I'm not a politician, I'm not a police officer, I'm not an official, I still have power. I still have influence and rights. I can literally go and stand in front of Parliament with a megaphone and shout Brexit. You can do shit in this country. Power is not just the position given to you. It is what's in here. Like, it's not just this. It's what's up here. Like, you can use your brain as power. Trust me.
1998 to be replaced with a British Bill of Rights that limits the right of free speech to British citizens and legally sanctioned residents. He complains that racist threats against immigrants are not protected free speech, while he proposes to strip migrants, tourists, and perhaps even visiting American congresspeople of any free speech rights at all. I had my own close encounter with that when Mr. Farage and his team presented for more than an hour in a conversation we had about free speech. And after 3 minutes of talking, he cut me off and terminated the meeting because he didn't like what I was saying.
Isn't that ironic? Isn't that ironic that Nigel Farage doesn't like free speech when it's against him? But if it's what he agrees with, it's okay. So if it's he wants people to randomly be able to incite violence against foreigners. So he wants British people to be able to say that they want to, the reason why he wants to be able to have British people incite violence against immigrants is because it would help him. If British people could go around saying burn down the asylum hotels or say this. I'm not saying people burn down the asylum hotels, by the way, please. Don't try and fucking lie to people and say I said that, because I didn't. So he wants people to be able to incite violence because it would help him. And because they can't, and he can't make them do it, because he's not allowed to incite violence, he wants to change the laws of free speech. That's literally what it is. He's a selfish, evil traitor.
That's the kind of free speech he's committed to. There is a free speech crisis in America today, but there's no free speech crisis in Britain. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has not shut down GB News, where Mr. Farage has his own show, just because Mr. Farage has used his airtime to call for banning peaceful protests that he disagrees with.
I call Keir Starmer a bellend every day. I literally insult the man near enough every day, and I've never met him, right? I've never been stopped. I talk about the king and his brother in some of the most derogatory terms you can imagine because of who they associated with when they were younger. We have fantastic free speech in England. To say that the UK doesn't have free speech is bullshit. We just have serious consequences for free speech. You are allowed to say what you... So you can actually incite violence in the UK, but you'll be arrested for it because it's a crime. But you can do it because you have freedom of speech. Do you know what I mean? You can do it, it's just there's consequences. The same as you can be racist, but you'd be charged for a hate crime. You can be abusive to some stranger on the street with your freedom of speech, but you'd be charged for assault or common assault or breach of the peace. We have amazing free speech in Britain. Amazing free speech. And to say that we don't, it's just a lie. I'm sorry, it's a lie. The only thing you're not allowed to do is incite violence and hatred. So I can't encourage my fellow British people to hate or be violent to another human. That's it. The same way you're not allowed to encourage other people to commit suicide or murder. You're not allowed to convince them to go and punch this black person in the face because they're black. Like, you can't do that. You can tell them that you would like to punch them because they're black, because you're a racist scumbag. You can say that, and people would think you're scum, and no crime has been committed. But if you try and convince another person to do that because they're black, then you've incited violence, you've committed a crime, you will be punished. It's as simple as that. I'm sorry, but people just don't understand things anymore. On a daily basis, I come across grown adults who don't understand the difference between a lie and a mistake. So if you say something in the knowledge of it being wrong, then you're lying. If you say something and you didn't know it was wrong, then you're mistaken. So sometimes I'll say things to people, and because they think I'm wrong, they'll say I'm a liar. And I'll tell them, I'm like, well, how could I be lying when I don't think I'm wrong? So even if I was wrong, it would still be a mistake, not a lie, because I have no awareness of it being wrong. Like, we've got to the point in 2025 where literally we've got 30 and 40-year-olds who don't understand what a lie and a mistake is. But you all think you understand free speech. He's having a laugh.
No one has stopped him from going on Russian TV 17 times and saying also...
Oh, we tried. There's many times this country's tried to stop him to promote Russia, but people just seem to have short memories in this country. Very short memories. Literally, Nigel Farage was a member of the Tory party for 15 years. From like 1978 until like 1995 or something, right? He was nearly a member of the Tory party for 20 years, then left them, set up his own party, right? Dragged the UK out the EU, and then helped the Tories do it, and now has blamed all the Tory party for what they did, takes no responsibility for it, but he was part of the Tory party and helped the Tory party do it. He's fucking... I don't understand how he gets away with bullshitting you all on a daily basis. Like, I lose my mind. It's not because of what he says and what it does that bothers me. What bothers me is that you lot all eat it up and buy it. All the people in Britain just fucking accept it as face value. And it's like, does not have a memory of when he was working at the EU, when he was going on Have I Got News For You on a Friday night, slagging off diplomats from European countries and kissing the arse of Putin and Donald Trump and things like that. You've all got very short memories.
And repeating that the one world political leader he most admired was Vladimir Putin, even though Vladimir Putin is a war criminal and a dictator who has regularly interfered in other countries' democratic elections.
As does America, to be fair. America always gets involved in other countries' elections like Cuba, Syria. And right now, America's getting involved in the British political system with Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage is basically the Republican Party's representative in Britain. That's what he is. But he's not backed by them. He's backed by the nationalists in America. The nationalists with the money are the ones who are backing Nigel Farage.
No one has stopped Mr. Farage from parroting Putin's absurd talking points, like when Farage claimed that NATO, the US, and Britain provoked this war in Ukraine. For a man who fashions himself as some kind of a free speech martyr, Mr. Farage seems most at home with the autocrats and dictators of the world who are crushing freedom on earth. Mr. Farage wants to get rid of the Online Safety Act in his country, a law shepherded by the Conservative Party and implemented by the Labour Party, which bans child pornography online, protects children from harmful content, forbids non-consensual pornography and other unlawful content. He should go and advance the positions he's taking here in Congress today in Parliament, which is meeting today, if he's serious about it.
But he's not. He's in America trying to get more money because he needs to be Prime Minister rather than solve problems.
People of UK who think this Putin-loving free speech imposter and Trump sycophant.
Putin-loving free speech imposter. Trump sycophant. Wow. That man spends a lot of time with a dictionary.
And will protect freedom in your country. Come on over to America and see what Trump and MAGA are doing to destroy our freedom. Kidnap college students off the street, ban books from our libraries, militarize our police and unleash them against our communities, take over our universities, wreck our professional civil service, and turn the government into a money-making machine for Trump and his family. You might think twice before you let Mr. Farage make Britain great again.
I wish I'd heard Nigel Farage's reply there, to be fair. I don't think it's very fair that I've allowed this person to say all that to Nigel and I've not heard his reply, but there was no reply on Politics Joe. I thought you guys would have his reply. So yeah, is Nigel Farage a traitor? I don't think he's someone who should be in the Tower of London. Like, it's not treason. You know, he's not trying to hurt the king, or he's not tried to hurt the Prime Minister, but he's using very shady tactics to convince people of Britain of things being a certain way that aren't actually that way just because it helps him. And he's willing to also go to a foreign country and to try and get them to impose sanctions on our country, the country that pays his wages, simply because he's not getting his own way. Instead of trying to get his changes in our parliament and convince the people to implement these changes, he's literally fucked off to another country, a foreign country. He seems to hate foreigners, but yeah, he's gone to a foreign country and asked them for help. And he could have done that in Parliament today. He could have literally asked Starmer a question. He could have demanded change. But no, he's went to America to whinge about Britain to try and get them to impose sanctions on us because he can't get people to attack migrants. Like, it's a fucking joke what's going on in this country. It's a fucking joke. The fact that this man is allowed to go on the way he does and he's all let it, I find it shocking. We would have never ever tolerated a man like this 20 years ago who was trying to encourage incitement of violence and was unhappy that they couldn't do it and went to a foreign country to try and get them to punish England for that reason. Like, we wouldn't have tolerated this 20 years ago. We would have never tolerated it in a million years. he would have been sacked like that. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.